The Rito and Zora, two races seen in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, but a lot of fans are surprised to see both of them in one game. That's because the Rito are an evolved, more bird-like version of the Zora. So how did that happen, and did they really evolve from the Zora in this game? What's the story behind the Rito, and what kind of role do the Zora play in this? Well, it's time to find out. Alright, let's first briefly take a look at how the Zora even evolved into the Rito in The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. According to The Legend of Zelda director Aonuma, the Rito are an evolved form of the Zora that appeared in The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. This half-fish, half-human race makes multiple references to the Rito, which further confirms this evolution. Like the symbol of the Zora Sapphire, which is used as the Zora's royal family symbol, can be seen in multiple places on the Rito's home of Dragon Roost Island in The Wind Waker. Also, in their general physiology, Zoras and Ritos have many similarities, like the fact that the Rito have wings that hang down at their elbows, and Zoras have fins at the same place. The reason why they changed from the Zora into the Rito is because of the Great Flood, an event where the gods flooded the world in order to prevent Ganon from destroying it all. And for some reason, it was easier for them to turn into birds than to adapt a little bit and remain Zoras. Please do not question this, since I'm even confused by it. Nintendo never really gave an explanation for this. Like, never. But what could be the reason this time? And why do we see both the Zora and the Rito in Breath of the Wild? And since we see both of them, did the Rito evolve from the Zora in this game too? Or maybe another being? Well, there are a lot of questions, so let's start from the beginning. Now, the first thing a lot of people started to question was the origin of these Rito. Where did they exactly come from? Well, for this we will go with the evolution method, since this has happened before, so it's the most likely one. Now, some people said that they evolved from the Loftwings, the birds that the citizens of Skyloft used. Now, there are a couple of arguments for this. First, the fact that the decorations at the end of the Rito's bows look like their wings. Besides that, they also look alike. This time around, the Rito look more like actual birds, and because of this, they have a lot of similarities with the Loftwings. The feet, wings, head, beak, they all kind of look the same. So could these Rito be evolved Loftwings? Well, it's not likely, and the reason why is the timeline placement of the game. It's not in the right time period at all. We are quite sure that the game takes place somewhere after Twilight Princess, far into the future. Since before the game's release, Aonuma revealed that Breath of the Wild takes place after Ocarina of Time, and in a cutscene, Zelda talks about the events of Twilight Princess. So let's keep it on the child timeline for now. In this timeline, we haven't even seen any Loftwings. The only game where we really saw them was in Skyward Sword, and that's miles away from Twilight Princess. Even if it's not in the child timeline, then it's still after Ocarina of Time, since Nintendo confirmed this. And here we didn't see any Loftwings as well. And that's the biggest problem with this. However, Breath of the Wild is extremely far into the future. 10,000 years to be exact. In this time period, a lot could change. But as far as we know, the Loftwing aren't really an option. However, there's also another possibility. How about the Aku? These are the chicken-like beings seen in Twilight Princess, and they are very technologically advanced. Somehow. Now, some people think that they could have turned into the Rito over time, but to be honest, that's just impossible. Going from this to this in 10,000 years? No way. It took us more than 7 million years to transform from apes into humans. So, it's not likely that the Aku turned into the Rito in such a short time. And another problem is the technology. The Rito aren't very advanced. They're actually pretty primitive. The only thing they excel in is making bows. So if they would be evolved Aku, then where did the advanced technology go? This leaves us with one last option. Yes, you guessed it, the Zora. And this is actually extremely fitting. I started out by comparing the body structure of the Rito and the Zora, and by the looks of it, they are almost identical. Both have short legs, a long body, are around the same height, and have a slim body type. If you compare the two, you can clearly see it. This is already a big sign that these Rito evolved from the Zora over time, and they don't even need anything in order to fly. Which is surprising, since in The Wind Waker, Valoo grants the Rito their wings by giving them one of his skills when they come of age. So they are actually an improvement over the ones seen in the previous game. But why did they evolve into the Rito even? And why did some of them remain Zora? Well, the last time it was because of the entire world turning into an ocean. But nothing like that has happened here. The world didn't change drastically, so what could be the reason? Could it be that they split up and some remained Zora and the others slowly evolved into Rito? Well, one thing that stood out to me is the fact that the Rito live on a mountain of sorts in an area filled with canyons. How did they end up in such a region? Well, for this we need to look at the history of the Zora Part 1, the Eternal Zora's Domain. The rains have blessed Lanayru since ancient times with an abundance of pure, clean water. Seeking a bounty of such water, the Zora gathered there. Thus as the legend go, the domain was born 10,000 years ago. And so they started construction on the Zora's Domain, since the land there was rich in ore. So that's how it all started for the Zora. Now this moment in history is in my opinion the only time that the Zora could have split up into two different groups. But why would some of the Zora go to a mountain-filled region instead of this water paradise? That's because there are also downsides to it, and some of these actually cost lives. For example, every 10 years the Lanayru region experiences unusually heavy rainfall. The Zora River flooded every time. The tides damaged not only the domain but also the people, washing away poor souls and causing great suffering and disarray. So every 10 years the region and other parts of Hyrule would be terrorized by these floods. So that would be a good reason to look for a different place to live. However, the Zora that started living there eventually solved the problem with the help of the King of Hyrule. But there are more problems with this region. On multiple occasions, the domain was attacked by monsters like Lizalfos, Lynels, and Guardians. So it's also not the safest place to live. But the region where the Rito are is way safer because of the mountains and the canyons. The Lizalfos and the Guardians would have a harder time getting there, and it's also high up, so there's no way that the area would be flooded. Could it be that some of the Zora decided to settle down in the Lanayru region and another group decided to go to a completely different place? And these ended up slowly evolving into more bird-like creatures, and so those Zoras became Ritos. This is also not out of the ordinary in any way. Evolution has always been like this, even in real life. A group of creatures decides on how to react to a certain situation, and then they adapt to that environment. And there are a lot of different ways how this could have happened. Zora's Domain was created 10,000 years ago. A lot can happen in that time. However, there's also a hint in the game that makes us think that it takes place in the adult timeline. The history of the Zora includes a tale about the sage Rito, who aided the hero in his fight against Ganon. These events only unfolded in the adult timeline, if they indeed refer to the same Princess Rito encountered in Ocarina of Time. So it could also be that these Rito are the more evolved version of the ones seen in the Wind Waker. But we aren't completely sure about this, since the ceremony still mentions Twilight Princess. But hey, now we at least have an idea of where the Rito came from and why they are seen in the game. Also, have you seen my other social media? My Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and Discord server? No? Well, go check it out now! Also, me and Birdkeeper Toby are going to VidCon this year, and we're going to do all kinds of meetups, so be sure to follow me on social media so that you know where we are at what times. Thanks for watching everybody, don't forget to check out all the social media stuff, it's in the comments and in the description and on the screen and whatever. And if you want to watch more videos, click this stuff on the screen.